Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents and officers soon may be equipped with gloves that deliver electric shocks. ICE is planning to spend up to $20 million to buy them. The manufacturer says that they are intended to de-escalate encounters. CNN's Brian Todd is here in the Situation Room. Brian, tell us more about these gloves.
Yeah, no potential for controversy here, right, Pamela? As Pamela mentioned, ICE is planning to spend $10 to $20 million for purchasing these gloves. It is called, quote, the CTG5 glove, and glove is an acronym. You see gloves that are very similar to the ones that they're going to be used. Those are from the company's website. GLOVE stands for Generated Low Output Voltage Emitter. The manufacturer, Compliant Technology, says these gloves are designed to de-escalate encounters with people. They can deliver a maximum voltage of up to 380 volts at a time. According to the manufacturer, that would, quote, inhibit and distract the subject from performing coordinated muscle movement, end quote. Now, according to the user's manual, no more than 2 of these gloves should be applied to a person at one time. They should not be used for more than 15 seconds at a time. Company officials and distributors say they can end a struggle in 3 seconds or less. There is video that we've had that we can show you here. This is the company president actually demonstrating this on a subject. And look, he does take him down there in about 3 seconds or less. And the gentleman there on the ground is a little bit shocked, but he is able to get up. One of the things, a couple of things that you have to know about these things, they do not go through hair or clothing. They have to be applied directly to the skin. So that's one of the possible restrictions there of this thing. And the company is warning that they should not be used on high-risk individuals like pregnant women, elderly people, small children, and severely disabled people. They should not be used for more than 15 seconds. Yes.
I mean, how in a moment, how would an ICE agent know if someone had a disability or if a woman was in her first trimester of pregnancy
you
or
don't know
whatever
that.
the case may be?
That's why this could really be controversial. And I was also thinking about the Alex Preddy death in January. That's in January in Minnesota, right? He's wearing a lot of clothing. They're wearing a lot of clothing. It wouldn't have necessarily been a factor in that situation. So yes, you don't know if a lady is in her first trimester if you're using this thing.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily you can't necessarily see someone's disability almost immediately if you're using this thing in some cases. So yeah, it really does have the potential for being controversial. It's not clear how many gloves are going to be purchased, how much each glove costs, or when officers are going to start to use them. But ICE officers probably will be using these things before too long. And as we mentioned, $10 to $20 million it's going to cost them. As Pamela and I have been talking about, it is controversial. 2 groups, the National Immigration Law Center and the American Civil Liberties Union, have come out expressing criticism of the plan to use these gloves. Here's a quote from the National Immigration Law Center, quote, "This is a rogue agency with an $80 billion slush fund that allows them to concoct and fund new ways to visit cruelty upon our communities. That group calls this disgusting and barbaric." But there is a gentleman who monitors the use of these types of devices, John Peters from the Institute for the Prevention of In-Custody Deaths, who said possibly this thing could be an effective tool if an officer is getting resistance, Pamela. We should say that the Department of Homeland Security and the manufacturer Compliant Technologies LLC has not responded immediately to our request for further comment on how these would be used. But you can see clearly there is potential for misuse here. There's a potential for accidents. There have already been prosecutions for the use of these things in South Carolina a couple of years ago, their use on inmates. So again, it's already controversial, but again, could it possibly de-escalate a situation where an ICE officer or a border protection officer isn't killing someone and instead uses this? Maybe, but again, very controversial.
Compliant Technologies makes the gloves, and in 2024, a distributor said the way the technology is used isn't capable of causing injury, adding, quote, "We usually get compliance within 3 seconds." This news comes as ICE agents are facing scrutiny over what critics are calling aggressive and dangerous tactics, and as the Trump administration is pushing for a quota to make 2,000 arrests per day. DHS did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment on this story. Joining me now, CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. I mean, the first and obvious question is, what do you think about having this as another tool? Obviously, we have seen, police officers around the country using tasers. There have been some issues with those. But what do you think about these gloves and the possibility that ICE will be using these during detentions?
Well, the gloves, in theory, and GLOVE is for generated low output voltage emitter, so it's glove. The gloves generically are a tool. So, like you put them on. There's sort of an on-off switch. So if you touch someone, they may not feel it. When you turn it on, they're going to get a voltage that's described as sort of an intense bee sting. They're not supposed to do it for longer than 15 seconds. So this may be helpful, and I will say that the devices have mostly been used, at least from the public record. The company is not speaking now, at least from the public record, in confined situations, a jail. That may make sense because there's really no freedom of movement. Go forward to ICE and where we are now. This is asking for intense trouble for the American public. ICE is not known for de-escalation. Right. The rules of engagement for ICE are not understood. And with this mandate from the White House of 2,000 arrests a day, you are now have sort of issued ICE to sort of go around, touch people and zap them and say that they're not compliant. We know ICE, I'm going to be direct here. We know ICE lies. They've been shown to lie.
They have.
And so this could be a real danger for the American public.
They have been shown to lie in court. And so, judges have made those, made that very plain and clear. I do want to ask you about, because we've talked about this before, but it with this extra tool, when you consider the idea that there is a quota, most departments have gotten rid of these, right? I mean, this was a whole big thing with law enforcement many, many decades ago. And now that it's back for ICE and ICE only, generally speaking, what does this do to law enforcement agents when they have this thing sitting over their head that, we need to get 2,000 per day?
And they have billions and billions of dollars authorized to do so. So it's the combination of the mandate with the resources that has become the sort of scary aspect of ICE for most of the American public. Sarah, I'm so glad that you raised this. People often ask me, like, how do you reform ICE? We have to abolish it. Look, and America needs an enforcement agency, and one that's interior enforcement agency. We have unlawful immigrants in the country. The White House promised that they would go after the worst of the worst. That is so clearly not true anymore. If you ask me, what is the one thing that needs to be done to reform ICE, to make it an effective and lawful law enforcement agency that has a mandate that is legitimate, it would be this quota. This quota is a political quota. It is not an operational quota. It's coming from Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and says 2,000, we need 2,000. Well, what that means is that senior managers are then pushing that down to the operational level. And then that means that these guys and women who have been onboarded with less training, less support, fewer rules of engagement are now deployed to satisfy a number. So giving them a new tool is dangerous with this mandate.
Juliette Kayyem, it is always a pleasure to talk through these issues with you. They are big issues and they're not going away. So we will be talking a lot more about this in the coming days. Thank you so much.
All right, Shalom. Giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rachak Badash, and double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching this truth that's gone all around the earth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. It's your brother Atazawan. And we're going to jump into a quick lesson here, Lord willing. It'll be quick and edifying and straight to the point. Okay. And we have that news clip about these what they call shock gloves, all right, that the agency, right, started up by this administration, known as the ICE, will spend $20 billion, with a B, $20 billion on purchasing this type of equipment, right, to use to, as they said, de-escalate situations. Now, this could go in many different ways, all right? But as we see it, there's no way that this could be used for any good. And first and foremost, you know that the developers or the company itself is just trying to get a lucrative contract, all right, for themselves to enrich themselves off of the back of the government people, in which I'm pretty sure there's some type of kickback for whatever senators or governors of whatever state that this man does his business in, and so on and so on and so on, in which even DJ Trump might be getting a little kickback of that money as well. Who knows, right? All we can say, though, is that it's set up for evil. It's just another evil device by Esau Edom. And so who do you think they're going to try this on, right? If it's for that agency, and we all know what that agency does, and that is they go around to harass and look for, particularly of the Latin tribes, right, of the children of Israel, you see? And so they're also in the midst of quietly building detention centers as well, okay? And then, and as the old saying goes, build it and they will come. So their intention is to use what they're developing. And who are they going to use it on? The good old YT Americans? More than likely not. Or not as much as they will go after the tribes, you see? And the prophets and the teachers of Yahweh Shem Yahushai have been warning their people, our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, all right, you Haitians and Jamaicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, right? You're of the children of Israel, and we can also mention of the other tribes that have come to Babylon the Great, seeking a better opportunity, but at the same time may receive even judgment or also deliverance, right? So there's a lot of moving parts to what's going on here in Babylon the Great now. The Most High is really ramping things up, okay? And it takes the men of the Lord to be able to sift through it, through the Spirit and power, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right, to tell you what's going on out here in the world, right? So we watch the news to also inform you as to how it plays out in the scriptures. So there's a thing called Jacob's trouble, okay? And you've heard us speak about it many, many times. And so these devices that Esau is coming up with, it's only to persecute the children of Israel, all right? So I have just a few scriptures. We'll get into them, and then I got this AI overview that we'll read about this agency and what their whole GLOVE is all about. Okay, so let's first go over to Jeremiah. Let's jump in at verse 4. Jeremiah 30:4, and it reads, "And these are the words that the Lord Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doeth travail with child." Right? Does a man bring forth birth, right, of a child? "Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, right, as a vision." You see, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble meaning for the Israelites, because the Israelites, what? Come out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? But he shall be saved out of it, right? The remnant, the elect of the Lord, shall make it through these troublesome times which are actually upon us right now. Okay? Let's go over to this quick overview. And we'll read a little bit about this. So it says here, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, plans to spend $38.3 billion on its detention re-engineering initiative to acquire and retrofit industrial buildings and warehouses into a massive network of immigrant detention and processing centers. This expansion aims to scale total bed capacity of 92,600 by late 2026. Okay, so that goes into their plans for detention centers. Okay, now let me see here, Salakia. Let me see if I can put it in real quick. Matter of fact, let's go back to this. Let's see if I can pull it up. Salakia. If I can put in shop gloves. Let's see if I can get the overview on it. See if it will come up. There's a picture of them there, but I wanted to try and get maybe the AI overview on it, if it would let me. Let's see. If not, that's okay, because we hear it in the report. Okay. Now the AI overview didn't come up on it, but that's okay. We won't worry about it. But you see here, they're going to use it in enforcement. And you hear in the clip that they're talking about, oh, it has to be, the glove has to touch the skin and so on and so forth. It doesn't work if they have clothes on. Oh, they're not supposed to use it. Not supposed to are the key words, right? But there's abuse within this agency that has been proven, and that they're not going to do things the right way. You already know that. And just as they were stating in that news piece, what happens when you grab somebody that's older and you don't know what their conditions are and you shock the shit out of them, right? What happens if you grab a woman that is pregnant? What happens then? You see? And then the fact that they're mandating for those in that agency to make 2,000 arrests, I believe that's per day. How in the world can you justify 2,000 arrests in a day? Okay? How do you go about doing that? Unless you just stopping and grabbing anybody that you see that you think might be an immigrant. Okay? That's a bunch of BS. All right? Oh, they're not supposed to do it for more than 15 seconds. Well, you saw them touch some of these people in the illustration, and it was for 2 seconds and they were down. You think that these people who have the ability to put those gloves on and shock somebody, you think they're not going to do it for 15 seconds? Just for shits and giggles? Okay, because Esau is a bitch, so he wants to always feel in power. You see? So that's cruel and unusual punishment. You wouldn't do that to a dog. You wouldn't shock a dog for 15 seconds, Salakia, 15 seconds. You see? So we know that this is for this time of trouble, okay? Now, let's get to Habakkuk 2 and 1. It reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it, right? Which are the scriptures, and these scriptures are filled with what? Prophecy. Okay? Verse 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up, which is Esau Edom, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. You see? So when these times really get ramped up, the only thing we're going to be able to rely on is our faith. We can't, it's okay to store up some extra food, have some cash on hand, have your little bag that you need to carry. You might have some things in it that you need if you need to go on the move. All that's all well and good, but the propeller of your motion will be your faith. You see, because it's going to be terrible out here, and people still don't get it. They think it's see, because you can still get up and you go to work and you go to the gas station when you need gas, you stop at Walmart, you buy your water and your food, and you're going on with life because the shit hasn't hit the fan yet. But there's coming a day when it's all going to come to a stop, and it's going to be all out terror and war here in this place. Okay? And it's going to be your own government, right, that's going to war with its own so-called citizens. And I don't suspect that even, that they won't go after those who you would call, even if they are so-called white preppers and all that, all those who resist, right, their will, okay? They're gonna go after me, okay? Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Yeah. So they know that their time is extremely short, so they're trying to bring about everything that they've thought about and had planned. They're trying to bring that out as soon as possible. Everything from this whole CV19 debacle, right? The sham, the scam of it all, right? To poisoning your food, right? Now they're trying to say they putting a vaccine in your foods, okay? Now you have this explosive lettuce and all this junk that's going on is by the hand of Esau Edom. Plain and simple. The economy is wrecked here in Babylon, right? The dollar is dropping every single day, okay? And you have nothing but chaos brewing. Real quick, this is Psalms 37, and let's see here. Let's read. Let's read 37 and 5. We'll read down a couple of these things because they have some good points in them, okay? Psalms 37 and 5, it says, commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass, right? And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord, Yahweh, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass, right? So have your faith built up in the Lord, okay? Never mind Esau, Edom, and all the little things that they're doing, the devices they're bringing forth, okay? Trust in the Lord. That's what your faith is for. That's who your faith is supposed to be in, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, not in your own hand, right? Because you see they're bringing devices that you can't combat, even if you wanted to, you see? Now, let's go on to a couple of other scripts here. Proverbs 19, and let me see here. Let's just read verse 20 down to 21. It reads, hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. So as you listen to the men of the Lord, start with our apostles here, Great Millstone, and then the respective brothers all the way down. These are instructions for your life, for the latter part, so that you'll be wise. You'll know what to do, okay? The scriptures are filled with the prophecies that will be in the last days, and it's also giving you right? That spiritual key, if you will, of understanding, so that you'll have that, as the scripture says, I believe it's Isaiah 33:6, wisdom and stability, right? That'll be for that latter end, for that time. Okay, we may have to just go there and get it. Proverbs 19:21, it says, there are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. So everything that the Lord has said, right, made it plain upon tables. Okay, the vision for this time that we're living in, and the Lord has calculated his delivery, right, or deliverance, Salakia, deliverance for the remnant, for the elect of the Lord, right, for these times. Let's go to Isaiah 33:6, and we'll read it. Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. You know, so what you're learning, for those brothers and sisters out there, what you're learning through the men, through the prophets, you know, it's going to come in handy. And that's an understatement. But it's going to come in handy for when these times get extremely difficult here. Okay? Let's go over to Second Esdras. I believe this is chapter 2, Salakia. I believe this is chapter 2. And we start down there in verse, Salakia. Kind of lost where it was. Verse 40. We'll just read at verse 40. All right? It reads, Second Esdras 2:40, take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. The number of thy children whom thou longest for is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord, that thy people which have been called from the beginning may be hallowed. I, Esdras, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly, which is Yahushua. See, verse 44, so I answered the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, these be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of the Most High, right? Now are they crowned and receive palms. Then said I unto the angel, what young person is that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, it is the Son of the Most High, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord, right? So that's what's going to happen in these trying times. So regardless to what devices Esau Edom comes up with, right, the elect are not going to be they're not going to succumb to the tactics of these evil people. Okay, now these things are going to happen, right, and they're going to come up with these wicked devices, but you have something that beats it all, right, and that's called faith. You see, so we're keeping an eye on all of the things that Esau Edom is coming up with. All right, as they put it out there, we're going to report on it. All right, to keep you brothers and sisters out there aware of what's going on if you haven't seen it already. Okay, so like I said, this is just a commentary on that news piece. You know, just again to sound the alarm, to blow the trumpet, if you will, to let you all know what their, at least this part of their plan is. Okay, there's nothing good that could come out of something like this, right? So it's only made for terror, and it's for a certain group of people, if you will. All right. So with that, we'll leave it right there. All right. Giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash, Shalom.